In today's video I'm going to be looking at how to complete the Warzone Easter egg, at least up to the part where you get the special SMG blueprint, the Mud Dauber. So we were trying to do this quite a lot this evening. This was actually the second time we managed to get into the bunker. The first thing you need to do is to try and get the message where a Russian tells you the 3 numbers that you need to complete the rest of this. So we basically split up into different areas. At this point there was 2 of us, or 3 of us doing this originally, and we'd take a couple of different buildings where there was a chance of getting it. Basically there's lots of different phones on the map. Some of them show Morse code, or some of them play Morse code rather, and you need those a little bit later. But then some of them will either play a dial tone, in which case they do nothing, you have to move on, or they'll play a message. Sometimes they'll be ringing before they play the message, which lets you know that that's one that you can use. So I was going into downtown because there's one at the top of this building, not quite on the roof, just in the offices just below it. Unfortunately, there were some people waiting for me, as you can see here. Yeah, I didn't really stand much of a chance there. I did see them when I was landing over on the roof, but I was kind of hoping that they were going to sit at the top and snipe people who were flying in. That's why I went down the bottom. So while I'm doing this, Name Gear is actually going to one of the other phones. We all split up all across the map to try and cover as many as possible, because you really need to make the most of your time. We're doing this in Plunder, so we don't have to worry about the circles or anything, but you really don't get a lot of time. So in that building, he's just going in. There's one of the other possible phones. Now, I didn't want to go back to downtown, and I was up at the top of the map when I respawned anyway. Name Gear's place unfortunately didn't have the message. He just had the dial tone, so that meant we're going to that place you just saw on the map. That is one of the other phones you can potentially get the message. Now this message, it always plays the same thing at the beginning where there's a Russian talking. It's something about a base being overrun and codes needing to be reset. Then after that there'll be a little jingle, then there'll be 3 numbers in Russian. Now if you don't speak Russian, it's helpful to have one of these little guides which kind of helps you to understand them. I used a lot of Google Translate to sort of play the different numbers the way so it can speak it, so you can kind of hear it. I still have trouble with some of the numbers, like I find some of them quite hard to understand. There's one that sounds like it says Sedin or something, and we haven't quite been able to work out which one that is. Now, when it gives you the 3 numbers, that's basically the guide for what you have to do for the next part of the Easter egg. The phones I mentioned that play Morse code, those Morse codes obviously link up to numbers. And you have to go to the 3 phones in the right order as played by the message. So the first part of it is just to make sure that you've got that message. Now, when I go into this building, you'll hear the phone. And as soon as you hear someone talking, that means that this is one of the phones you need. There'll be loads of phones across the map that do this, and they'll all say the same message. And that jingle is the bit that announces the beginning and end of the important bit, the numbers. So those numbers were 6, 0 and 7. So 6 actually corresponds to the phone that is in the air traffic control tower at the top of the airport. 0 is in the military base, and 7 is in the airport. So that was quite lucky for us because there's only 2 of us, and 2 of those phones are really, really close together. The 2 of them just being in the air traffic control tower and then the airport. That meant Name Gear could go get those 2, and I went up to the military base to try and get the middle one. Now, at this point, we didn't actually know where the one in the military base was. We just knew that it was in a military base somewhere because people on Discord had been talking about it. So we'd already seen the ACC one before, and we'd already seen the airport one a few times before. So Name Gear knew exactly where they were, but obviously those are quite busy areas, so he thought he might have to go fight a little bit. Whereas I just had to get over to military base and try and find this phone. Now, when you're looking for the Morse code phones, on this map, that should show you where all of them are. We don't know where 1 is, so if you get 1 come up, we just sort of left the match and found another one because the numbers are randomised every time. Hopefully, by tomorrow, someone will have found the phone that does the 1 in Morse code, and that'll make that a lot easier, so it'll mean you won't have to quit so much. So, once you've discovered which ones they are and you've found on the map like where you need to go, you'll get into the buildings, and most of the phones are quite easy to find. Most of them are quite close to an entrance, and if they're the right ones for that particular game, they'll be ringing. Now, we had a couple of problems where sometimes the ringing didn't start straight away. Sometimes you wouldn't hear it for a little while. Sometimes you'd be able to hear it from ages away and you'd immediately know. They don't ring in order, so they'll all be ringing all the time right from the beginning of the game. Sometimes we found phones that were ringing right at the very start, even in the lobby. So we kind of knew which phones would be some of the right ones. If they're not ringing, that means they're not the right phone. So, like I said, the ringing can be a little bit delayed. Sometimes it's worth waiting. But if it's not ringing, it's not the right phone. Now, because I knew this in miniature base, I thought I'd check this little tower first. There are obviously loads of phones in the game, just like models of phones. Unfortunately, lots of them you can't interact with. So I started running through all the different buildings trying to find phones. Like I said, if they're the right ones, if they're part of the free phone code that you need to open up the bunker, you actually hear them ringing from quite a way away, and that's how I end up spotting this one. Now, we've had a few problems with this. There's some Russian numbers that sound very, very similar. There's one that sounds like it says like Sedin or something like that one. We haven't been able to work out what that one is. So when we've had that one, we haven't been able to like find the right one. With this one, we actually weren't sure if it was right, because when you pick up the phone, normally, if it's the right one, there'll be the Morse code, but then there'll also be like someone talking straight afterwards. And when Name Gear picked up the one in the air traffic control tower, we didn't hear that, so we didn't have the right part. So we're a little bit worried that maybe we've messed up, that we hadn't heard it right, that we hadn't translated it right. So, but we thought, oh well, we'll try anyway, because it was getting pretty late. We'll try and find something. Now I'm still running around the military base, desperately trying to find it. While I'm doing this, Name Gear's just waiting at the airport, waiting by the final phone, thinking that we probably have messed this up and that this is a waste of time anyway. You can see here, there's loads and loads of these identical containers. And weirdly, I sort of felt like I needed to go back and check this one. And it's a good thing I did, because this actually ends up being the right one.
No, I can't figure it out what else it could be.
So when I go up here, you hear that, that's the sound of the phone, and that's because that was the right one. Now I didn't actually wait to hear the Russian guy talking, but it'll play the Morse code bit, and then if it's the right one, there'll be a little guy talking. Like I said, when we did the air traffic control tower one in this, even though that was the right one, we didn't hear the Russian guy talking for some reason, and it wasn't ringing. So if you're pretty sure you heard the numbers right, don't worry too much. But after I did that, Name Gear could press the last one, which was at airport, and then I drove over to Bunker 11 to see if we'd done it right. If you've done all of the steps right, so you heard the message, you found the free phones, you pressed them in the correct order, then when you got to Bunker 11, which was thankfully very, very close to me, the light outside will turn green. Normally it's red. So you can see here when I get close, the light on top is green, which means that we can open this up. And you don't need a key card or anything like that. All you need to do is go up to the keypad and interact with it, and that will open up the door. I was waiting for a little while here to see if Name Gear could catch up, but then we saw overtime had just started. So we suddenly thought, okay, we'd probably better get a move on, because there's actually a puzzle inside the bunker, which I'll talk to you about in a second.
Yeah, go for it.
So, with the go-ahead from Name Gear, I press the keypad, and you can see it opens up the bunker quite slowly. Thankfully, we've never got into a fight out here. I'm sure once more people know about this, then there'll be a few more people here. You might even find that the bunker's already open by the time you get to it. But once you go in, it's pretty cool. It goes in quite a long way. There's quite a lot of these orange boxes. It's really cool. There's a few normal ones as well dotted about. Loads and loads of loot. If you go to this first one on the left, there's a button here that lets you interact with it, and it reboots the computers. So that switches on the computers in the next room, the second door on the left. And that one starts this counter. This goes from 10 to 2 and then sort of glitches out before it gets to 0. If you go through this door, the second door on the right, and go through the hole, then you can get to the red button. And if you press this red button, it will clear the smoke there, and then that lets you see that there's a nuke through that window. Also, just for that hole on this table, there is the SMG, the Mud Dauber. So you can pick that up, and that will unlock it for you, so then you've got it from then on,
that's
and it
nice.
unlocks it for everyone in your team. So everybody's got that as soon as you pick it up. Seems pretty cool, kind of orange and black. Seems alright. So what we're doing now for the rest of this is just trying to work out how to do the next bit of the Easter egg. So there's those timers, countdown from 10 to 0. We think you have to press the red button at just the time when it would get to 0. Now annoyingly, it's actually pretty tricky because the red button takes a while to press. It's not an instant interact. There's like a little bit of a delay. And we tried this over and over and over again, and we haven't been able to get it right so far.
You can't just press it.
So I'll leave you with the rest of this video. You can see us trying in vain to get the next bit done. We haven't managed to get in there while we've got a key card, so we don't know if you can open the next bunker door. You can't get into the nuke room because that's all like chained up, so you can't do anything with that. I'm sure by now there'll be loads of videos of other people who have managed to get through to the next bit. But you can see us having a go. So if you want to see more Warzone videos and more Easter egg videos and videos about Call of Duty 2020, which I think this is all kind of building up to, then please do leave a like and subscribe to let us know you want more content like this. And I'll see you soon. Thank you very much.
2, 1, 0. 7, 6, yeah, can do. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. No. Does the computer have to be booted up as well? I'm trying to do it at different timings.